Today, it is my honor to have two of my most favorite couples in the world on this interview, Ashley and Caleb Pearson out of Charleston, South Carolina, and Heather and Dusty Cole out of Alabama, both top REMAX agents and both top REMAX teams in the country. So we have so much to share today and so many things to talk about. I'm going to start out with Ashley. Ashley and Caleb do not work together like 100% of the time in their business. So Ashley is going to talk a little bit about the mindset of working with an entrepreneur and some of the points, Ashley, that you talked about in another seminar that you were on. Take it
Yes.
away.
Okay. Well, okay. So yeah, I guess for me, I think it's really important. We have so many friends, as we met Heather and Dusty here in Charleston, came and visited with us, and kind of we've learned from lots of people in our lives that work together or work in a similar industry and kind of complement one another and help each other through business, how hard it is and how hard it can be. And I think the biggest thing that we learned through that process was staying in our own lanes. And I think that once we found out those lanes, that's when we really started to do better together. But I think a huge part of me personally learning to stay in my own lane was learning how to deal with an entrepreneur. And when I say deal with, it's a very positive thing. It's a beautiful thing. But I think until you understand what an entrepreneur truly is and what characteristics those people truly have, it makes it really difficult to interface with them on a daily basis as a wife, and especially in the work environment. So I think that the biggest thing is we just have to learn that we need to try and keep them on track. And just, I know I feel like I'm constantly telling Caleb, like, that is a fantastic idea, but don't go chasing squirrels. Like, let's
I know
complete
exactly what you mean, right?
you guys have a million. I'm not an entrepreneur, so I can only speak as to how entrepreneurs act. And I think it's incredible. I think I love watching it, and it's such a neat thing. I don't have that, so at all. So it's really perplexing to me, but I do know that I have to reel him in quite frequently. I have to, I guess, just encourage him to, I don't know.
But you got to
Would
see
you
it through.
say ground him? Like, so he's constantly thinking of ideas and you sort of, in your mind, feel like you need to like work on one thing at a time? Is that what
Yeah,
you're saying?
yes. And also just to say, hey, listen, we've got this going on, this going on, this going on. And where I was, the role I was in our business, I had to like be able to reel him in, to show him those things, because you guys can get going on so many things at once. It's really hard to just define. So I think it's just really important to understand that as a gift and not as a misfortune, because it's really awesome, but you just have to learn how to manage it. What were you gonna say? I'm sorry.
I think it's just being married to someone like us, you've had to change like the way that she view, like what lens you look at me through as an entrepreneur, because it used to be, I would frustrate the heck out of her because I was just going in so many different directions so fast. And she always wants to have everything organized and perfect before it was built, where I will jump out of a plane and build the parachute on the way down.
Yes. That is a perfect example.
So you've got two personalities that are just doing this. And then when you put them together in a work environment, I mean, we butted heads hard when she first came into my business. I mean, she came in like a bull in a china shop, and we almost lost. I mean, I don't want to say we almost lost our whole team, but it definitely changed. I mean, it's going to make good footage, Betty. But I mean, it definitely changed the culture for a little while until we figured out which lane she needed to stay in and which lane I needed to stay in. And then how do we get in those lanes and go in the same direction? And it's not easy. I mean, it took us a year. Probably our toughest year in marriage was the first year that we started working together. And then we kind of got in our lanes, figured it out, and things went great after that.
But one other,
I mean, it takes time, right? I mean, it's just not like you get in together. And I've been through the whole thing with Heather and Dusty. I've watched Heather moved from not even the same person in the last, I don't know how many years, Heather. How many years
Yeah.
has it been? How long ago was it?
7 years, 6 or
Yeah.
7 years ago.
And so, you know, Heather, you're not like the same person, but it was an evolution, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, these two are saints, Betty, for putting up with Dusty and I.
Yeah,
Yeah, y'all are very similar. Like I can totally feel everything Ashley's saying right now.
Yeah,
I
so
remember
let's talk about that. That's the personality profile of the disc. And would you say that Dusty and Caleb are high D social, and that y'all have the C S personality? Heather, do you? You have a lot of D in you too, though.
I think I have more D now than I did. So mine's kind of evolved. I am like an IC. I'm very into the details, but I'm also very about the people, you know? So that's my profile. He's absolutely a high D.
it's like a 99D and everything else
Yeah.
is way down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dusty sells I was 99D, 99I, and no S and no C.
So I
Yeah,
think
Yeah.
That's me
DI,
too.
something Heather just said that I think is super important, and it's something I struggled with when I came on, specifically in real estate, is you just said you care about the people. And I know that as
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, you guys care about the people as well, but that's one more, I don't want to say flaw, but that's one more disadvantage, is that you're so focused on actually completing the task and seeing it to the finish line that
Mhm.
you sometimes forget about connecting with the people. And I think that that's something that's super important. Like Heather, I know that when I jumped into the business, like connecting with the clients for me was like, it was so cool because Caleb is so fast. He'll do it. He'll do a
Right.
great job and he'll crush it. But like,
Right.
it's
Well,
through
she-
that process that
She does a real good job of
Yeah.
that within our team. I mean, I think I connect with our clients really, really well, but I am moving pretty fast with our team, and I forget to do that with the agents and the staff and the things like that. So she fills that gap very well.
Yeah.
And another just kind of point on something you said, Ashley, is they do have to reel us in a little bit, but at the same time, she kind of blesses the madness in a certain way. You know, she lets me go be who I am, and you know, I come home, we might have bought 2 homes that day and she doesn't even know about it and she's fine with it, you know, so that sort of thing.
Now I am. Like
Yeah.
that
Now.
took me too, right? Like at first I was like, what?
Yeah.
You know, he's like, yeah, you
It
bought
takes-
shoes today. I bought a house. I'm like, okay. So, you know, that's been happening now for a while.
She gets the freedom to do that. If I use my instincts, you know, she doesn't.
Yeah,
That sort of thing.
absolutely.
So.
That's what y'all are good at, right?
Heather and Dusty, let's delve into, since y'all are working on a day-to-day basis, give me an idea on both of you, and Ashley, you can start. Like I'm sorry, Heather, you can start.
Mhm.
On a day-to-day basis, like what does your day look like? I mean, I know Dusty did 100 deals on his own last year, and that's not the team, that's just him.
Mhm.
What is that like for you in the office? Do you interact with Dusty? Are you in your own lane doing all of your administration and handling the whole, how does that work?
Yeah, so I feel like that has kind of evolved too, whereas I used to be solely focused on operations. So I am doing our marketing, I'm processing our listings right now, training the team, all the operational things on the back end. But now I do work more closely with the clients, with Dusty. So there are some transactions we do where we're more of a team. So that's kind of evolved a little bit. But yeah, we, you know, interact all day, but normally I'm kind of in my lane and he's in his lane, and we're
But
both
if he
trying
come
to-
over and try to tell you what to do on the operations side,
Rarely. He knows better now to not do that.
Because the reality, a lot of all the things she does, I really don't want to do, right? I might
Yeah.
have an opinion every so often, you know, and you just got to learn how to interject those opinions.
Mhm.
That takes skill, you know.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was thinking, I was just talking before the webinar with everybody about some characteristics that Caleb and Dusty particularly have in common. And so, I mean, I started out working with Caleb when you were how, 22?
I
You were
was-
22 when you started
Probably.
working it?
Yeah, probably 10, yeah,
How old are you now? How long have you been in the business?
13 years. So I'll be 35.
It seems like yesterday. So here's how we started out. Here's how Caleb started out in real estate. He came into the room. I said, Caleb, every morning I prospect and lead generate for 2 hours. So you sit right here and listen to me. We're going to call the expireds. I'll call all the ones over 500. You call the other ones. He didn't know what to say or anything. You just listen to me and you figure it out. Okay. That's how he started,
That's
right?
how it started.
Yeah.
And
That's good.
then it took, people want immediate gratification. How long would you say it took? And it described to me that evolution of you doing it, and the other characteristic that Dusty and Caleb have in common is consistency. So
Mhm.
how long did you consistently come in every single day and lead generate before it started happening?
Before I got my first sale, or
Before, I mean, as I remember it, it was 0, 0, 0, 0 landslide.
yeah, I mean, it was fast, but I mean, you gave me the right habits. I was young and naive, but I had all the energy in the world, and I would talk to I mean, you gave me the numbers and the people to call, and I would just call them. And I could build enough relationship to at least get our foot in the door, and then we'd go close them down. But yeah, we went from 0 to 100 fast. But I
And
did
it's
the
like,
same thing.
so most people will not, and this is what we were talking about earlier too, will not go past the unpleasant stage where nothing is happening. I would say it was 4 or 5 months really, that you came in every single day and prospected, lead generated, didn't get any results until it started pouring, until you learned and it started really taking off.
Yeah, and that's what I'm glad you bring that up, Betty, because I forget. And I've got 3 new people that just started, and they're making like $4,000 a week. But they've only been going for 90 days and they haven't really had any success. So I guess if it took that long, I don't remember it taking that long.
It did. It
But
did.
that's great. But then it was like, once I got it, it was just boom, 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 because you just do the same thing over and over again. And it just, the pipeline just gets full. But most people quit after 60 to 90 days of not having success, because it's
Exactly.
brutal when you don't know what you're doing, you don't know what you're saying, you're uncomfortable, and you're just getting told no all day long. So
Exactly. And
99
that's like, it's like you don't go to work out and then get all fit. It's the same exact principle. And if people really understood that. So, Dusty, we started out when I was so lucky to get you in my schedule, and you were in my schedule without Heather at the beginning. And I remember like the first thing you said, and it reminded me of Caleb right away, is you said, Coach, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Everybody says that, but nobody does that. So
Right.
Dusty would remember on the next coaching call, he would not only remember what we talked about, he would have done it.
Wow.
And like, you don't remember that, huh?
Well, what I can remember is wanting it so bad, whatever that was on the other side of, becoming a successful agent or making the amount of money we wanted to do, or live, all those things. I wanted it so bad that I was willing to fly and go meet with, Ashley and Caleb and learn their business, Heather and I both. So things like that, we were willing to do, but that's what it was. Just wanted it really bad. I
remember a call and you were lead generating, just doing it consistently. And on a call, you said, I got a problem. I said, what is it? I thought it was going to be this huge problem. Well, somebody keeps knocking at the door to try to talk to me while I'm prosecuting. I said, well, could you put a sign on the door and say, I'm prospecting?
Big damn problem. You tell I needed a coach really bad.
Betty, I remember when you called me and you said, hey, I've got this coaching client out of Alabama. His name's Dusty, and he's going to be great. He said, will you talk to him? And I called him that week and I was like, dude, if you want to just hop on a plane and come here, come on, and you can shadow our office. He was there within like 6 days.
And you charged, and Dusty's cheap.
Dusty's cheap, yeah.
It was valuable. It was very valuable.
Very valuable.
They did. They both showed up and they went home and implemented everything that we did within 90 days. I'm not talking like a little bit of what we do, like everything that our company did. And now they do more volume than we do. Like they crush it.
the framework
Well,
of
you know,
what we do.
that's the next thing that y'all have in common, and that is that you're constantly, you have a coach or you go to a webinar where you learn new things. And I don't take offense of this, but I can, you know, remember when Caleb went, I think it was Kendra Reese, right?
Yeah.
Or somebody, like you said, I need those skills. You knew what you were missing and you went there. And it's not anything against the coach. It's just that you need to learn other things. And so you've
Right.
done that, Caleb, throughout your career. I mean,
Yeah.
I was on a Zoom call with you and your investment people, and it's just like a whole different crowd, right?
Yeah, I've always looked for people that were ahead of where I was in the game that had, I mean, I've looked, it used to be like who makes the most money, and that's what I would run to be that person. Now it's more like who has the best quality of life and the most time and freedom, but also makes enough money to do what they kind of want. Like that's who I more chase, that lifestyle now versus
Exactly.
whoever
Yeah.
makes the most money.
Yeah.
But I've always found that in masterminds or coaches, and that's, I've just
I
always
know. And I mean, it's so important, Heather, just like at the beginning, when you came on, like your growth is phenomenal. You know, what I remember is Dusty, both Heather and Dusty did not want to work out. And I thought, well, you know, they got everything going, but they're not working out. They need to work out. And then, you know, Dusty would say, I'm not going to work out, you know, I'm too busy to work out.
Yeah.
Talk to us about what happened there.
Yeah, so I, you know, started working out and got a personal trainer, and it completely changed my life. And then he kind of followed suit after
She
that.
inspired me. Yeah.
And it was just a completely different lifestyle for us. So we made a huge shift.
And that whole thing is it's not a, you know, it's not like this, right? I mean, there are seasons of, you know, when we do it well and when we don't,
For
but
sure.
it was definitely a big change. Yeah.
Mhm.
And Ashley, don't you think that feeling good and health is important just for your productivity and your relationship?
Absolutely. I mean, when we go out of town and we get off, I mean, I'm sitting here listening to everything you're saying, like the consistency, the discipline, you know, they're always striving to do better, like all those things. When we take a break, you would think a vacation would be like, awesome, we're off for 7 days. Well, by day 5, this guy is like, I want to get back in my routine. I want to get back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's like waking up, you know, first thing in the morning and going and
Right.
getting a sweat in. And I'm like, what are you? We're on vacation. Like, you know. So yes, but I do think feeling good, it makes him feel good. It makes me feel good. I mean, Heather, I know y'all can attest to this. Like it changes my day. If I don't go do it, I'm a totally different person than if I get it.
Absolutely.
Your brain fires too, you know.
yeah.
More, yeah.
So
Well,
yeah, I think it's important.
Dusty, how do you do 100 deals and run a team?
No, I couldn't do it without her and our transaction coordinator. I mean, I've got really good help, you know, but I'm also very skilled and we work very hard, you know. So like, I think the biggest mistake a lot of people make is they give themselves too much freedom. Like this is a normal, if you treat it like a normal job and you show up and you do the things over and over again, it just compounds. And, you know, that's really, you know, so I don't even feel like, I mean, I don't work every weekend, you know, and we're selling 100 houses. It's not that hard anymore.
So I always talk about, and I think I talked about Andrew Lacey, who I first learned from, who worked with Mike Ferry before I even got involved with Tom Ferry. And he and his sister did 300 deals by themselves. He did 300 deals by himself. And he had an easy life. You know what he did? He did 3 hours of lead generation in the morning and went on appointments in the afternoon, and she did everything else.
Yeah.
Right.
And they did 300 deals, and they took off every weekend. They didn't work nights. To this day, he's a coach, and, you know, he keeps everything simple. And in these days, you know, for a person who's been in the business over 30 years, technology is not sometimes the easiest for me, but I've had to get up with it. But if I really am going to talk to anybody, and I heard Michael Reese say this, he said, you know, if I'm coaching somebody, on every call, the only thing I need to ask is how many people did you talk to today? And how many contacts did you make? It's a numbers game. So with all of this social media, you can get, you know, of course, more people at the same time, but we have to, I don't know anybody that's successful that doesn't keep to the basics. Caleb, do you still do the basics?
Yeah, I mean, you have to, and we preach the basics, and every time you see somebody's numbers fall off and their production fall off, it always goes back to how many dials did you make, how many people did you talk to? Because like we talked about, once you get to a certain skill set, if you do the work, you're going to do production. I mean,
Right.
Dusty's just highly, highly skilled, so he can talk to less people
Right.
than the majority of people could talk to and do the same amount or more deals. But he's got really good habits, and he does the same thing over and over and over again with every client, if I had to guess.
Yep. I think there's accountability with our team too, like me still being in heavy production, like meeting with them and trying to stay sharp to help them, I think helps me produce. So I think that's another mindset approach that we have also. You know.
Exactly. Exactly. So, Caleb, talk to us a little bit about what you're doing these days. You're running your team, you have investment portfolio. What's going on right now?
Yeah, so we still have our team, which is 5 agents, and that's still running along strong. I mean, that team does the same thing every week, and it generates about the same amount of volume every year. Then we've got a fix and flip division to where we're flipping usually around 75 homes-ish a year. And then with the money from the flip companies and the sales teams, we buy mobile home parks, apartment complexes, and basically commercial rental properties. And we use, not overcomplicated, but we use the depreciation from all those purchases to offset the income from those businesses. So
which one of those, I guess I'll say businesses is the most profitable?
That's a good question. I would say, like with the rental properties, they don't turn, there's about 350-ish units, and they don't turn a whole lot of, call it profit, net profit every year. They do make money, but like there's a ton of equity in them. So I would say long-term, there's a lot more wealth generated from that than from selling and flipping homes.
And that takes discipline, right? To hold on to those assets for long-term.
Yeah, especially when they go up by a decent amount. It's hard not to take, what do they say? Don't kill the chicken if it's making eggs every month. So, I mean, it's hard to shoot that golden goose. And it's better off to just take the money out on a monthly drip than to sell it.
What do you enjoy the most right now?
Probably the investment side, the buying and hold side of it.
I think
So
he
in
likes
2020, what was that, Ashley?
I think he likes going out and finding investors because I think it gives him something exciting and challenging because they always have to be challenged. You guys always have to be challenged. So
it's the entrepreneur, the newness of something.
yes, and finding the deals. It's still a search. It's still always on the hunt for something to
Exactly. Dusty, can you relate?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think I don't like just managing, you know, like I don't like just having a thing that you manage. That is very mundane and boring to me. I like to grow something. So that's what kind of gets me excited. I mean, if we're growing, whatever it could be, our investment portfolio or our team or my personal business or whatever it could be, and ancillary services, growing those, then that's kind of what, you know, gets me fired up.
And Heather, I know you're a big thinker as well. So that, you know, doesn't quite go with your personality profile. But I get that you are always looking to grow and always looking to expand what you're doing.
Absolutely. I definitely have the same mindset. I'm always looking for the next thing, you know, in our business and our personal life, like what's the next step, you know? So,
and that's what I think keeps you sharp. Now, Dusty and Heather, what about social media? What about all the stuff Tom Ferry's teaching you? Where are y'all with that?
So we actually hired a full-time creative director last year. He's been with us for a year, really just helping us build our brand, providing value to our team and our agents, helping our clients with listing videos and just, trying to cut through the noise, I guess. And so that's been a huge asset to us. So that was a big change that we made in regards to marketing and social media and all that. So that was a great
Because
hire.
you can't, even though you would be good at that, you can't do everything. And I
No.
love that you made that step. In fact, I was thinking about that, wondering if y'all had done that, because that does seem like a great step.
Yep. Yes.
And
definitely.
Caleb, y'all have a marketing person on staff, or just that you
Yeah,
outsource?
she's actually, we outsourced it to Legacy Digital Marketing. They do a great job. They started probably what, 2 years ago?
Almost 2 years ago, yeah.
And they handle our branding. They don't do like our PPC and SEO, but they do our branding. And I mean, it's a hard thing to track, but brand awareness is actually it's a lot more important than I thought it was.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's hard. I can't tell you how many people come to me and say, "Hey, love your videos," and I
Mhm.
didn't know that many people watched them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's a hard thing to measure, but it is certainly very, very critical,
Mhm.
Yeah, I
They-
mean,
they
it
make
just
it
gives
easy.
us the ability to reach so many more people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, let's go into production, and tools. And if you had to give these people out here, so, I think there are couples watching, but there will be also people that don't work in the business together, more like you and Ashley, that are married to each other or partners with each other. How do y'all make decisions about new things, new platforms, new ways to spend money?
So personally, I have to say, or did you ask? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I asked both of y'all. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I think for me, Caleb, I as Dusty said earlier, like Heather kind of trusts him and trust his judgment. So I think Caleb, with all of the resources that he has, and all of the coaches and all of the masterminds and all of these people that are forever changing and forever growing that he goes to, when he sees something and wants to invest in it, obviously I trust that that's going to be the right decision. And we also have dialed our finances in so strongly, and all of our tracking on what we're, the profitability of everything we're doing.
Like
And
ROI.
our ROI is, we know the ROI. And so we're not afraid to turn something on and then turn it off if it's not producing, you know what I mean? So I think
Mhm.
once we got to that stage where we
Who knows that? Are you involved in that?
I mean, I was ultimately not anymore, but we have a CFO, and we have a operations manager, and they work very closely with one another to track all these things. So we're able, I mean, we just had our goal setting. I saw Dusty, y'all and Heather, y'all were getting ready to do that, but for the end of the year, and I saw the growth of how cool it is to see like how far we've come with that. But once I think you dial that stuff in, it makes your decision making, it's so much easier, that because that the risk is nominal compared to the benefit, and you can very much see that ROI, see this is what we spent, this is what we gained from it, or what we didn't gain, and then we nix it or we continue with it. So I think,
But there's a few parts to that, Betty. Like I'll tell you, my least favorite year in real estate ever was the year that I sold the most amount of homes, did the most volume, but we had every system, tool, lead, trap, everything on the planet we tried. Because I used to just, if I saw it online, I bought it and tried it. But now we get it, we get an idea, we run it through our mastermind filter and see if it works for them. And then every single thing we do has a different phone number or tracking device to it. Like down to, not only we don't just track direct mail anymore, we track, does the postcards and the letters, like the folded envelope letters, have
Mhm.
different phone numbers on it that are mailed to the same people. So we can see like what's performing better than what. And if it doesn't return, like have a more than a 2.5x ROI, we kill it.
I love it. Love it.
But it used to be like, it was just blindly spend and hope enough comes back in that our
Yes.
bank account's bigger than it was last month.
And that's what I would say, of the hundreds of people I've coached over the years, my biggest pet peeve is that they will buy things and they don't, not only do they not use them, but they don't have a clue how to use them. And they
Right.
keep them, you know, and they keep these expensive things they're not using, and it drives me completely nuts. So I know what
Mhm.
you're saying. But that was, you evolved with that too. I mean, it was a process, and you finally got somebody else that's helping you with that as
Somebody
well.
smarter than me, way smarter than me.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Both of those people.
Yeah.
Speak to that, Heather and Dusty, on what we were just talking about with tools and things that you buy and things that you do and how you track that.
Well, my brain actually went a little bit different direction. We don't really spend a lot anymore on new tools and shiny objects. But the biggest thing I think we kind of just try to discuss is more like labor cost, our biggest cost, you know, which is payroll and such. So do we grow in regards to that from a support staff? So, you know, that's something we kind of banter with a good bit, trying to figure out the right path in that regard, you know.
Heather, what advice do you have to everybody watching in working with a partner?
Oh, goodness. One thing that we're very intentional with quality time together. We are together every day at work. I love working with Dusty. You know, but talking about staying in our own lanes, you know, he has his primary role, I have my primary role. It's very defined. It always has been since the very beginning. I think that's been really critical in us, you know, working together. But we have a date night every single week, and we have for 14 years since our son was born. It's a non-negotiable for us. It's a time where we're able just to shut it all off, you know, well, we try to. We're both very passionate about our business, so sometimes it's really hard to not get excited and want to talk about it, but we try to not talk about work on our date night. So I think just, you know, making sure we are spending quality time outside of work, away from work, you know, maybe go on a trip or two, just us, you know, being very intentional with our time together has been crucial for us.
Great. You know, I think
I'll add one thing, Betty, is
Yeah.
one thing that I think we've kind of gotten better at is when things do go wrong, maybe we get upset with each other. We don't really stay in that very long anymore. You know, we pretty much get over that shit pretty quick, you know.
that takes time too, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm like, get out of here with that. I hate listening to you right now. We'll talk about
I
this
know.
later, you know?
You live more and more in the moment, right?
But we used
Yeah.
to. I used to go on for long times and would interrupt, you know, either our personal life or our
Yeah.
business because one of us, you know, upset the other. So we've gotten
I
a lot
love
better
that.
at
I love
getting
that.
over it.
So important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about y'all? Caleb,
I think-
Ashley, y'all
I-
hold
honestly,
grudges?
I think y'all nailed it. No, I don't think at all anymore, but it
No.
definitely used to be like that. Like I would get so mad and it would be like 2 days before I would speak to him about something. And I'm like, where that got us nowhere. But I think the quality time, that is one thing I actually have spoke on in the past is you nailed it. Like if we go a week without having our date night, and I preach this to people, it truly changes. It changes our dynamic. And I
Absolutely.
think that's part of being married also, not just working with your spouse, but also being married to an entrepreneur, because you guys are constantly chasing everything and going and going and going, and to feel loved. And I know we all are loved different ways, but to have that individual time unplugged from all those other things that are so important and make all your wheels go around, just to have us. And in that moment, it's really special, I think, for all of us. And I think it is truly something that we would preach to everyone.
Yeah, I agree. And Betty, one thing you taught me was the 5 love languages
Yeah.
Mhm.
back in the day. And I think you pushed me to read it and understand.
Thank you, Betty.
Yeah,
Thank you, Betty.
understanding what are her buttons. Unfortunately, she's all 5. But
Likes, gifts, attention.
yeah.
Right.
I like anything I can get.
Understanding what drives your partner helps. Our
Yeah.
biggest, to be honest, Betty, has been the biggest challenge we've had is the freaking calendar.
Yeah.
Just because she is resistant to using a Google electronic calendar and she's got her paper calendar, and obviously they don't sync. And I never know what's on her calendar, and she's won't go look on my calendar. So thank
Actually, I'll give you a breakthrough on that. Like, I remember looking at Caleb's calendar and I thought, who would want to live like this? You know, who would want to live like this? Like having those things all set out every minute. And
Yes.
his assistants were plugging things in.
Yes.
So I thought, I don't want to live like that. But guess who lives like that and loves it
You?
now?
Mhm.
you.
I
I
have
know.
to.
I
If you
need to
have si-
embrace
When you
it.
have 60 clients, you have to do it. And now I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. So it's just
I don't like to know what all y'all have going on. I don't need to know when you have a meeting. Like, that stresses me out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My
what is
calendar
the-
stresses her out too. She's like, you didn't give yourself enough time to get from one appointment to the other. I'm like,
Oh my
fine.
gosh, no. I'm like such a planner, you know, we're like, we live by our calendars. He can see mine, I can see his, and I put stuff on his, all of our kids' games and practices, and oh my God, I don't know what we
Like,
would do with it.
literally, I wouldn't even know where to go.
That's a Tom Ferry thing, Ashley. If
Yeah.
it's not in your calendar, it doesn't exist.
Well, I need to do better. I definitely need to. But I also
No.
No,
say
you don't have to do any of that.
I'll be a confession. I don't look at her calendar. I don't know what she's doing.
Guy knows what I'm doing. He watches my location. It's a little
my
creepy.
360.
Yeah, we just got that too. That is pretty impactful.
Well,
But
I
no,
knew this was going to be such a fun call. Any final words from
Yeah,
everybody?
no, Betty, that was the only other thing I would say too, is that this stuff like this is so important when you can actually talk to other entrepreneurs and their spouses or their partners, and just really get to know that you're not alone, and you know that it truly is a gift, and we learn to embrace it. I think it's really important. It's helped me tremendously. So thank you.
Yeah, and you've got us on this call, but you've been working with Robert longer than any of us have been working with our spouse. And we
Yeah.
all, Robert.
We
what
should
is-
be-
I'd say don't work with your spouse.
Yeah. Well, we've got a ton of respect for both of you guys. Betty, we thank you for everything you did for us early on, and Caleb and Ashley, you know, we
Same.
respect the hell out of y'all. So, you know, thank you guys for
We
everything.
love you guys. We
Same.
love
We love
watching
all
y'all
you
crush
guys.
it.
Yeah.
Bye,
Same.
everybody. Love
Bye.
you.
Bye, love y'all.